This is wacky.
All right, so yeah, I'll read this quick intro and then we'll just start chit-chatting.
Cool.
Ernest Joseph Anastasio III was born September 30th, 1964 in the great state of Texas. His dad was the president of the Educational Testing Service, and his mom wrote children's books. So you might have thought he'd become a writer, but instead, in college, he started a band called Phish. The group performed their first concert in 1983. Anastasio, who at this point went by the name Trey, even though that is not a shortened version of Ernest Joseph Anastasio or the Third, he had been leading the band. He's been leading the band ever since, which is kind of nuts because that was 40 years ago, and Phish is still touring constantly, making music, putting smiles on people's faces. Today on Big Kid, we're digging into Phish, jam band culture, concerts, and so much more with escape journalist and my one true Fortnite comrade, Adam Rosenberg. Adam, how are you, brother?
I am doing well. Thank you for that lovely intro from both myself and the boys. The boys. Trey and company, they are gigantic music nerds who just, tapped into something, and yeah, whatever Phish is now is that. It's how they play together.
Honestly, I have a hard time thinking of bands that have managed to do it for 40 years. Like they're in their fourth decade now, or like that's wild.
Yeah. I mean, look, it feels like a holdover from like that sort of 60s era. The obviously Grateful Dead is the one people always turn to, but like that scene, Allman Brothers, the bands that sort of, for any albums they put out, their bread and butter, their greatest success as artists was, on the road performing shows. And that's how they built up these followings. I mean, my gateway to this style of music as a whole was the Dead. Like my dad is a huge Deadhead. He had hundreds and hundreds of tapes when I was a kid. They'd always be playing, and like, tangentially related bands like CSNY and Rolling Stones, Almonds a little bit. He's more into like bluegrass country. Almonds were a little too rock for him, but
that's what they say about what they say about the Almonds. Like, you know what, they're just too rock and roll. I love it.
I mean, they're like textbook rock and roll. It's great. Yeah, and I don't know, I just kind of grew up with that kind of music in my life, and it's honestly, it's weird. Like I fell in love with the Dead at a young age. It was the first concert I ever saw. I saw them several times, actually.
So you got to see. Now I have to stop you. So you saw the Dead. You saw Jerry.
Oh, yeah, like 6 or 7 times, and I saw Jerry Band once. Yeah.
I did not know that. That's really cool.
It was. I was young and in high school and doing all the things a high school kid does when they're getting into trouble.
Yeah, they do.
And I still have vivid memories of my Dead shows. So
I love it.
That was really eye-opening for me in terms of introducing me to like a culture around music, because prior to that, my musical taste came from like school and what like was popular, what all the kids were listening to. My first cassettes, because that's how old I am, were Motley Crue, Girls, and Beastie Boys, License to Ill. That was just what was, and I love them. Like,
absolutely,
those bands and those albums are classics.
Those are a lot cooler than I remember the first cassette tape I bought for myself, and it was Beach Boys' "Endless Summer."
Hey,
because that's
Beach
the kind
Boys,
of, I was a big Beach Boys head when I was a kid.
That is great. They are awesome.
Yeah.
They get roundly dismissed as old fogey dad rock.
Yeah. And that's just because Mike Love sucks.
What?
It's just because Mike Love sucks, honestly. If we all remember the Beach Boys as they were before Mike Love became a band dictator, like, I feel like they'd be more revered, but now we just think of them as like, oh, that old dad surfer band that was on Full House 30 years ago. And nobody wants to be remembered that way. So the reason I specifically needed you to come on and talk about Phish is because you're the biggest Phish fan I know. You're one of, I think, only 2 Phish fans I know. But I had told myself at Jaguar, you know what? I think this is the year I get into Phish. And I like
this.
you, had a family member. It wasn't my dad. It was my dad's brother, my Uncle Mike, who was a massive deadhead. The walls of his house were covered in flags with the skull on it, with the flowers, and he introduced me to them through a VHS tape of the Touch of Grey music video, because he knew I liked the Muppets. And so the puppet skeleton band was wildly my shit. And so that sent me down a Grateful Dead rabbit hole, and I watched that tape until it stopped working. But I never kept going, but I always heard about Phish. I feel like if anyone listening doesn't know Phish, they are a band that I like, their style of music is trademarked by, like, I'll give you a perfect example. I asked Adam to put together like a playlist to send me of things to listen to sort of get in the mindset of what Phish is all about. They were all live tracks. This is a live band. This is a band when you go, you see, and when they play their music, some of the songs go on for 20, 25, 30 minutes. But what's crazy is, though, it always comes back around. You think when I think of a jam band, I think of just a guy noodling on a guitar until the end of time. But like, it's good music that is lots of it is catchy. I told you when I was messaging with you earlier, Haley's Comet blew my brain apart. Like, that's an amazing song. And if you don't know Phish, I implore you, please just go to YouTube or go to Spotify and just type in Phish, Phish, not like the animal, and then search Haley and throw in Haley's Comet on the end, and just listen to how fun it's catchy, and it just goes. And I love that. And I feel like it's weird. Like, obviously this is a song it's been out for a little while. I wouldn't say it's the newest, hottest track, but like hearing something that you haven't heard for the first time, especially at, like, I'm 41 years old. I've heard a lot of songs in my life. Hearing a song that's been around for a while for the first time, and it also being amazing, is such a nutty experience.
Yeah, wow. I am excited to be on this journey with you, Chris. Honestly, like,
I told you, this ends with me going to a concert. It has to.
We are going to go to a concert. We're going to figure this out. We're going to make it happen. I do have to tell you that playlist, which you're welcome to share. I'll make it a shareable link if it's not.
Nice.
It is. There's an important Easter egg with that playlist.
Really?
Every single song on the playlist is from a show that I was at.
No,
so I saw all those songs live.
They're all from your Okay, so now, well, here's the time. How many times have you seen Phish live? Do you keep count?
Man,
or is it at a certain point do you just not?
I've lost count, honestly. It is in, I believe, the 100 to 200 range, and probably closer to the higher end of that.
I haven't seen, like, there are bands that I adore. I have not seen them that many times, though, and what am I doing with my life? Because I know you go, if I'm remembering correctly, they play like a short residency at, like, Madison Square Garden in the holiday season, right?
Well, okay.
Walk me through.
So, yeah, they do have an annual tradition almost every New Year's since they started getting into, like, arena rock, like arena level rock.
Yeah. They're not playing like Bon Jovi songs.
Yeah, no. Actually, I think they have done Bon Jovi before.
Oh,
I've seen them do Van Halen. They did Running with the Devil in summer '98 when I was that's a whole other story into itself. But that summer '98 tour, they just did, like, wild covers every show, and one of the shows was running with the Devil Encore. It was absolutely outrageous.
That's
but
magical.
yeah, so for holiday residency, yeah, they do typically 4 nights at Madison Square Garden. The dates have varied, but generally it's 28, 29, 30, 31. The third night, the fourth night on the 31st, is always a 3-set show where the New Year's Eve countdown is timed to like the third set. They usually do something really spectacular. I think I showed you the one a few years ago where they had like drone powered like Phish automatons, like actual Phish, Fish, floating through Madison Square Garden that was filling with like a smoke machine smoke.
I never would have expected Phish to be the band that's like pushing the concert technology edge,
right?
You know what I mean? But I'm so glad they do. It's amazing.
Yeah, they do wacky stuff. But the real residency, and actually what got me back into Phish in my sort of adult parenting life, because I had a lengthy sort of break from the band for all sorts of reasons, which we can get into. But in 2017, they did that summer they did a run that was known as Baker's Dozen. It was a 13-night stand at Madison Square Garden, and my wife, who had never seen Phish before, I had been like slowly introducing her to this band, and she was into it. Like, she's got a lot of similar music sensibilities to me. We bought tickets for I think 7 of the shows, and yeah, the first night that we went together ended up being a sort of legendary show in the Phish canon. Like,
really?
It was jam night, so every night was themed to a donut, and that night's donut was jam filled. And they did like a 30-minute version of this song called Lawn Boy, which is usually like a 3 or 4 minute loungy like crooner song, and they just took it to like the cosmos, and it was just this stunning work of musical art. And yeah, obviously she was hooked from then on. That's like a make or break moment when you see Phish and the third song into your first show, they just go off for 30 minutes and do wild shit. You're either in forever or you're leaving the building at like minute 10.
Whoa, that's nuts, dude. And I'm assuming it turned out you were in it forever, because you guys are still going.
Oh yeah, she loved it. And yeah, the important note here is, just like their 4-night residency, this 13-night stand, they did not repeat a single song.
Okay.
And that is why going on tour with a band like Phish, seeing multiple shows in a run with a band like Phish is so appealing, because there is an element of surprise to every show. You don't know what they're going to do.
I'm very glad you brought that up, because that's the thing about Phish that kind of blows my mind. They did 13 shows in a row and didn't repeat a single song.
Not only that, but they're
not short shows.
No,
like, they're long shows.
Yeah, about 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours. Yeah. Not only did they not repeat a single song, they created stuff for this run that they still haven't like repeated. For the Boston Cream Night, which actually the roots of this whole Baker's Dozen idea is in Boston Cream. I forget the anecdote. It goes way back, but they had essentially said one day we'll do a residency and we'll mash up Boston and Cream, the bands. It was something like that. I'm probably getting this wrong. Anyway, they had a Boston Cream Night, and that night during the second set, they suddenly busted into, what is it? They started with Foreplay Long Time. I think that's how it goes, right? Yeah, I think it was, they started with Foreplay Long Time, and they segued into Sunshine of Your Love, and they had written this composition that was basically a medley of the two songs. That sort of the culmination of that medley was just the two songs sort of playing side by side in harmony. And it was like this incredible musical concoction that like was definitely like an inside joke to fans who have been following the band forever, but it was also just this incredibly, you know, unique work of like of homage and but like also like fresh creation. It was really wild night. I'm glad I didn't miss that one.
That's I'm trying. I think of the bands I like to go see. Like we're going to see U2 later this year in Las Vegas because they are just a forever favorite of mine.
They're classic. Octung Baby.
That's actually what the Vegas show is. It's the Octung anniversary residency. So they're doing it. They're doing a show that's all Octung Baby stuff. And in that new, have you seen that new venue in Vegas? It's just a giant video sphere.
Oh, I've heard about. I saw it under construction at CES.
Yeah, they're going to be they're the first act playing in that new weird building, and the building holds like 18,000 people. So they're going to be playing to 18,000 people a night, which is nuts. But that's all besides the point. The fact that that Phish can go this many shows without repeating a song, and also like it, here's what I'll say. I don't know anything about the behind the scenes of the band, but I feel like you gotta be having a lot of fun to be doing stuff like this. Like as a fan of the band, like, does it still ring to you that everybody's still just having a great time doing it?
Yeah, it's interesting. The scene that like I came up with, which wasn't even like the original Phish scene. I didn't start seeing them until the sort of middle 90s. My first show was 97. I had interests that led me to Phish between Grateful Dead and them. But going back and seeing them in 2017 and then like falling all the way back into it in the time since, one thing I've observed is there are these sort of, it's almost a little cliquey, like there are different segments of the community that are actually
the Phish fandom has cliques.
Click is a bad word for it, but it does get a little sort of gatekeepy in some circles, like any fandom, I think. But it is very much divided into like the eras of their career together. So there's Phish 1.0, which was like from inception to the early aughts. There's Phish 2.0, which was, so they took a hiatus in the early aughts and then came back.
Okay. I want to talk to you about that because I find that very curious.
So I was off the band for a while at that point, but I can speak to what I know about it.
Okay.
But then after the hiatus, they came back, and that was Phish 2.0, and then I want to say 3.0. So Trey had some substance troubles. He actually went to jail for a short period.
Pulled
over like a DWI in upstate New York. And I think there was like another break obviously there was a break while he was in jail, but I think there was another break like following that for a period. And then after that, like after he got clean, essentially is Phish 3.0. And I mean, that's when I come back into it. Like I kind of stopped at the end of 1.0. So I missed most of 2.0.
So you skipped 2.0. Show. Okay.
I saw one show in 2009, but like from 2002 or 3 until 2009, it was nothing. And a lot of that had to do, honestly, with I was getting tired of the scene. It was a little too...
Well, now, yeah, talk to me about the scene because, like, it's almost a joke when I say it, but it's not. Like, I'm very invested in the Jimmy Buffett fan scene. I find only because I find it genuinely fascinating. Like Parrot Head, you honestly talk to a Parrot Head, they crazy, but like they're really interesting to talk to. But like, okay, so what is the Phish fan scene like? Obviously, there are not cliques, but there are people who there's gatekeeping in every fandom. But like, what is this scene like that sort of turned you off to it?
I honestly, like, I got to think back for a minute because it's been a long time. It was a couple factors. The music was starting to go downhill, which is always like my North Star with any band. They were starting to get sloppy. My understanding is that there were more drugs backstage at the time, and it was impacting the music by '99 in a not so great way. And honestly, like, that doesn't mean there were bad shows from '99 on. New Year's 12/31/99 is still one of the wildest nights I've ever had seeing live music. But yeah,
wait,
the music was
so you were there for their New Year's Eve 1999 show?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Did they play Party Like It's 1999?
Yeah, I think they did. They must have played 19.
Yeah.
No, they played it. I think it was New Year's Run '98. I think it was New Year's Eve '98. Actually,
okay,
into '99 party. Yeah.
Ooh, okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah. What did they do for 2000? The thing about 2000 is they've never released that show, so it's only audience recordings. And Phish audience recordings are generally pretty decent, but like, I'm a snob. I don't like too much crowd noise in my music. I want to hear the instruments well mixed.
I am right there with you. I don't necessarily want to say that I've downloaded bootlegs from bands like U2, but I definitely have. And there was a whole website that was literally just like a band endorsed bootleg website that was wonderful. But man, when you can tell the difference when someone has a friend that can plug a recorder into a soundboard versus someone's holding their phone up in the crowd.
And well, that doesn't.
Huh?
That actually happens at Phish shows, certainly, but that's not where the recordings come from. They, like the Dead, they have a taper section. Like, they have taper tickets that you can buy that are basically at the soundboard, and you can't plug in. They don't allow that, but they do have, like, taper trees. Like, if you're right, I think it's right behind the soundboard at a show. If you look at the cluster of people there, you'll just see like 10-foot tall mic stands sticking up.
Oh, that's fascinating. Okay.
Yeah, it's totally band sanctioned. They love it, and obviously they have live Phish. They record all this stuff and release it like Pearl Jam or some of these other bands that I mean, honestly, Phish I think was doing it before Pearl Jam, but they make this stuff available to the fandom in a way that even the Dead haven't done at this point.
And I think on it, like, you used to do some work in entertainment journalism. I do some work in entertainment journalism. We're exposed to fandoms and how the people that are they're fans of react to the fandoms. I love a band that is like that. Like, it makes no sense to stand against recording of shows and stuff like that, because, like, it doesn't matter how good your recording is, you're not replicating the concert experience. I'm not paying. Look, I'll be honest with you. I didn't pay $500 to go see Taylor Swift in April so I could close my eyes and put in a pair of headphones. It's not the same thing. So I love when a band embraces it, but I love that they also like make that available themselves to their fans. There was one guy I went and saw. I don't remember who it was, but you could literally buy recordings of the show you just watched on the way out, and like, you'd pay him like $15 and you'd get like the MP3 emailed to you the next day or whatever. Like, stuff like that is incredible. So I am so pro bands making this, especially we can't all afford to go to a bunch of concerts. So getting to like embrace at least some piece of that live experience it's wonderful.
And especially, I think it's really important for bands that have been around a long time to do that, because, I mean, yeah, the cost is certainly what it is, but when you perform for a long enough period of time and you write music for a long enough period of time, you build up a catalog, and you want to share that catalog with your fandom, and different bands do it different ways. Like, obviously you've got your radio hits that like, bands will sort of these bands that will play their new album and then encore with the 2 radio hits or whatever. But you know, Phish and a lot of bands in that sort of scene, they just, every show is, you know, a new journey, because they have that material to play with, and that's what makes it fun. And you know, for a band like Phish, the thing with them and their fans is, for anything about like gatekeeping or cliques or groups or anything like that, at the end of the day, once the lights go down and the music starts, and the Phish lights go up, because Chris Kuroda, the lighting manager, is considered by most fans to be the sort of fifth member of the band. The light show at Phish is very,
Really?
it is reactive to and in sync with the band.
Okay.
Chris has been with them
Wow.
forever, and yeah.
Well, and honestly, that's so given that I don't know a ton about the band, I have the Wikipedia page open, and I'm genuinely, usually when a band's been around this long, you look at the members, and it's this long list of people who've come in and out of the band over time. It's the same 4 dudes for the most part, outside of like Jeff Holdsworth at the very, very beginning and then stepping away. But it's the same 4 guys, and also it looks like a lot of their tour, the people that are noting the tour with them, have also been with them since the 80s.
Yes, yeah, and that's not to say they've not like added new people to the circle.
Oh, sure.
In terms of like the people who create the music, those 4 guys, like the way they communicate with each other musically is the essence of Phish. Like, you take any one of them out of that mix and it's not Phish anymore. It may sound like that, they may play the music, but like the entire Phish experience depends on the 4 of them interacting musically. And not just with themselves, but, and this is what I was getting at before, it's with themselves, it's with the lighting manager, it's also with their audience. Like Trey has talked about this on stage many times, about the energy exchange between band and audience, and like that is a real dialogue that happens at every show, and the sort of the nuts and bolts of that dialogue are different for every show, and that's what kind of gives each show its own unique feel and energy. It's I've seen so many different bands and different kinds of bands and different styles of music over the course of my life. Old jazz artists, you know, new anything, you name your genre, from the beginning of music to the current moment in music, and nothing has ever come close to capturing what Phish delivers in a live performance for me. Like, it is a spiritual experience for me, and I think for a lot of people.
That just makes me want to go so much worse. Okay, well then, okay. So you walk into Arena for a Kish, and I haven't even gotten to talking to you about the studio albums yet, which I'm also very curious about. But like, if you're going, okay, Madison Square Garden holiday tour 4 nights in a row. If you're going, are you? What is sort of the vibe like with the crowd as you get there? Because like, I go to, of all the concerts I go to, like I normally don't tend to be around crowds that are like all like excited and happy to see each other and like interacting with strangers. Like, weirdly enough, that happened quite a bit at the Taylor Swift show, but like that, I feel like I don't meet a lot of strangers at most concerts. Like, I mean, obviously we know the sort of the stereotype of the jam band audience is that there's just a cloud of marijuana cannabis hanging above them.
It's an accurate stereotype.
I 100% believe it. But like, obviously we talked about like some of the more, sometimes there's some gatekeeping elements, etc. But like, what's the vibe like actually in the room as you guys are getting ready, knowing you're about to see a whole new show that wasn't the one you just saw the night before? Are people friendly? Are people excited? Are there still jerks?
Yes, and yes to friendly, excited, and jerks. It's all 3. Look, it varies. Depends on who's around you on any given night. Like, some people just want to have the night to themselves and like occupy their space, and that's that. Some people want to occupy everyone's space, and those are the jerks who tend to get like, you know, gently or not so gently kind of shoved somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But most people are there to just see music, and if people around them want to like hang out and be friendly, they are super into that. One thing that has been really interesting since I started seeing them again at this later stage in life is now that they're doing more sort of multi-night runs. One thing they've started doing is releasing tickets that cover the entire stretch of time. So like we're going to see them at Madison Square Garden at the end of this month into the beginning of August. That's going to be 7 nights. And we have a 7-night pass. So we're in the same seats for 7 nights.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's
and
so cool.
those seats are like sold in clusters. So what tends to happen when you have these passes is you'll be seated around the same people for an entire run. And I can't say that I've kept up relationships with anyone I've met during those periods, but I've had so much fun with total strangers because of that. COVID has made things a little stranger because like, you know, for a while after we started seeing shows again, like everyone was in masks, everyone was a little more scared. This is going to be interesting because I think most people aren't going to be masked at MSG at the end of the month. I don't even know if I'm going to be, and I was and still continue to be like very, very careful about this stuff. But
yeah,
I you know, I'll probably and my wife too will probably wear masks like walking in, but we don't want to be wearing them. Like it constricts the fun in some ways.
That's been a weird thing I've dealt with a few times because I've done a few I've gone to a number of wrestling shows since the pandemic, and I've gone to a couple of concerts. And if I'm walking around with a mask on, that's fine. But like the moment I'm sitting down and I'm just kind of trapped in a crowd of people, like that's when I feel like I'll be okay. And that's, we were actually talking about it when we go to the Vegas show in October. Like, are we going to mask? Are we not going to mask? I mean, it's Las Vegas. Las Vegas is Las Vegas. And to go to Las Vegas is to probably come home with some sort of sickness from Las Vegas.
That's
like
accurate.
Yeah. So like I don't know. I probably won't.
Yeah, I don't think
I'll be the person at the U2 concert with the cannabis cloud above them, pretending I'm at a Phish show, just having the time of my life.
Hey, no one's gonna escort you out in Vegas.
It's true. It's legal there now.
Oh, that's right. It is. I just meant Vegas. Yeah.
But yeah. Vegas seems just fine with everything.
Yeah. We actually. Yeah, I will say just one more Vegas thing. Just because you mentioned like going.
Did you see Phish in Vegas?
We did. We saw my first ever Halloween show, which had been on my Phish bucket list.
Oh my god! Like, talk to me about the Halloween shows, please.
So do you know?
That's my favorite holiday.
What?
That's my favorite holiday, but I don't know anything about Phish's Halloween shows.
Oh man. Okay. So it's changed a bit over the years. When they were younger, every Halloween, what they would do is just like New Year's, a 3-set show. Mm-hmm. But the second set, they would put on a, air quotes here, musical costume. And what that meant was they would cover another band's entire album. And like, most people know about the White Album. They did the White Album in 96 or 95. 96 was Talking Heads Remain in Light, which to this day is still like one of the most stunning things. I wish I had been there. Or was that 96? I don't know. I lose track of like which years things happened, but yeah, they've done Velvet Underground Loaded. They did Ziggy Stardust. They did what else? Wow. They actually once did Dark Side of the Moon, and it wasn't even Halloween. It was like some random show, some random Utah show. But yeah, so that was how they started doing Halloweens.
Okay.
What they've been doing more and more in recent years is using the second set to just get weird and do something really unexpected. So at one point that was, you will appreciate this, that was covering, what was it, like a Disney album of spooky holiday music. I'm gonna have to send you that set.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's wacky. Some of those songs are still in their rotation too.
Wow.
But the most recent ones, they've actually done this thing where they basically fabricated a fictional band and used the set to release a new album, essentially. I mean, under this different band's name. So like, what was it, 2018 or 2019? They created out of whole cloth this what was it, like Finnish rock band, I think, called Kasvat Voxed, and they like dressed up in like 80s new wave style suits, and they had this really funky stage setup, and music was great. They just debuted a whole lineup of new songs, and it was the same thing for us when we saw them in Vegas for Halloween. They were teasing this like sort of outer space sci-fi adventure, and then as we were walking into the venue, they were handing out playbills, right, on Broadway. You go into a show. They were handing out playbill, like in the style of playbills. They were handing out, I can show you, I have it over there, comic book that they created called Sci-Fi Soldier that told the story of the night, and their second set was essentially a rock opera. It told the story.
Is that Get More Down?
Get More Down. That isn't that the name of a song? I get a little fuzzier on the names of their new songs.
Oh yeah, I don't know. This is just, it looks like, it's linked to
it's
linked to that show. Yeah. The names of their characters were Clueless Wallop, which was Shrey. Mike Gordon was Half Nelson. John Fishman was Polly Roots, and Paige McConnell was Pat Malone. These are good names.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, that was a chilling, thrilling Sounds of the Haunted House. That was a Disney one. But yeah, Pat Malone, I forgot about that. That's so funny. And they did this rock opera and wrote a comic for it and printed a comic for it, and of course I still have it. Like, how could I not?
Oh yeah, why wouldn't you? I'd be weird if you didn't have it.
We ended up getting two, and I gave one to a friend who couldn't make it, but we kept the other one.
That was very nice of you.
Well,
where do you land on the studio albums? Because I'm looking, they have 15 studio albums, which is nuts, because all I've ever heard of is the Phish live recordings.
Yeah, I mean, look, the studio albums are there. They're really good. They're different.
Oh, okay. You said the studio albums were there in a way where I was like, oh, they're bad. Okay.
Yeah, I realized that as that came out of my mouth. I was like, wait, no, that sounds not that is not the way I wanted that to sound. They are really good. They're very different. It's a much cleaner sound. It's more, obviously, it's more produced. Even their live albums, you feel it. But they are interesting and fun in their own way. And like, for me, in my like music listening habits, it is entirely mood based. Most of the time when I want to listen to Phish, it's live. Sometimes I get a hankering to turn on Billy Breathes or Rift or Story of the Ghost, which is my favorite. Just because, I don't know, I have a lot of memories wrapped up in those albums, but they're also just like filled with good music that I love.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to hit you. I want to hit you with just, I refer to it as the lightning round. It's not. I'm just going to ask you a series of questions and you can answer them at your own speed. What is the one song that, if you know it's going to be on your set list for the night, that this concert is going to be amazing?
Oh man.
Like, I'm assuming they're all amazing, but like, what for you, what's that one extra special song?
So, okay. There are two pieces to this answer, because it's like, there was me in the 90s who was fresh to Phish, and loved a particular song and just wanted to hear it live. And that's kind of how Phish, like, FOMO comes into play, is like you look at set lists and you're like, shit, I missed the night that they played this song and they're not going to do it again. That song was Glide. It's a very simple song with like, like one line of lyrics that's just repeated over and over again, essentially.
Oh, okay.
And it's very, very nice. Like, we're glad that you're alive. We're glad that you're alive. We're glad that you'll arrive. We're glad. We're glad that you're a glide. And it's like a phonetic kind of play on glides.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like love that song. It's so like intricate in its simplicity, and I really wanted to hear it. And I finally did when I went on tour in '98, and that was the most amazing thing. That was great. That made the show. But nice. The thing that drives me now, the thing that gets me so excited about, like, the surprise that I'm always waiting for at any Phish show these days, is story time. Which I mentioned to you when we were DMing.
You did mention that to me. Yeah.
They have a few songs that open up the door to story time. Harpua is a very, very popular one. It's one of the more well-known ones. There's also Forbin Mockingbird, which is two songs, Colonel Forbin's Ascent and Fly Famous Mockingbird, that they segue into, like, one segues into the other, and there's often a story in the middle. But also sometimes they just like will randomly like insert stories into their shows because they just do weird stuff sometimes, and that's the Phish experience. Yeah. And all this goes back to like the roots of Phish. Trey in his college years wrote a rock opera called Gamehenge, which, like, I think all of the songs on it, or almost all of the songs on it, are still in regular rotation at their shows. And they, back in the 90s, they would sometimes, like, I think it's happened 4 or 5 times, do Gamehenge sets where they would recreate the rock opera. I have never seen it. I've always wanted to see it. I don't think they're going to do it anytime soon, if at all.
So that's like your Great White Phish.
I mean, there's always something with them, right? Because it's just so unpredictable. Like, they used to talk about crowd interactions. They used to throw in these little like riffs that would, I mean, some of them still alive today. They would noodle on the Simpsons theme, and it would just and the audience collectively would know that as soon as that theme snippet plays, everyone immediately responds with a screamed "doe." Or, when they play Wilson, everyone sings the Wilson part. Like, there are call and response things that are part of the script for a typical Phish show. That, like,
I love when concerts become Rocky Horror Picture Show. More than anything, I love when concerts become Rocky Horror, because that's how you feel like you're somehow even more a part of the action. And like, listen, if you're out there and you're a musician, do this in your shows, build this into your shows. And if you keep repeating it, people will start to fall in with it, because there's nothing better than when you are interacting with the band you love. And it's like a shared moment of everybody in this room is combining to make this one thing. Like, oh my God, I love that stuff.
And story time is like the most perfect distillation of that for me, because while it's not as like call and response oriented the way Rocky Horror is, it is still like a very direct form of engagement from the band with the audience in a way that they don't always do. And they're sharing a piece of their creativity that, again, we don't always get to see. And it's always weird, and it's always different. Like, that Harpua, they just stuck 500 miles into the middle of it because it fit the story they were telling. And obviously that was something they figured out in advance and planned out. It wasn't spur of the moment, but story there's nothing. And this isn't, I don't know if like all of fandom calls it story time. I just call it story time just because that like sums up what I love most about seeing Phish. It is that element of surprise. It is, at any given moment, the lead guitarist will stop playing and tell a story about this kid Jimmy and his dead cat and all the weird shit that happens.
Wow. Huh. All right, I'm into that.
That's a reference to the lyrics of Harpua.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. God, this experience just sounds good. How did Phish fans feel when they were name checked on The Office? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I didn't know that happened. Actually.
All right, so on an episode of The Office, Ed Helms' character is talking to his fellow a cappella group member from college, played by Stephen Colbert, and his character had just recorded like a drink your milk PSA with Trey Anastasio from Phish, and it's this weird plot point in the episode. But like what the for me, every time I see it, I think, I wonder if Phish fans hate this. I don't know that Phish fans love The Office or are like, yeah, this thing on this major corporation does. They're talking to me. So I don't know why that's always been stuck in my head, but every single time, and I tend to rewatch The Office a couple times a year at least. Every single time I get to that episode, I find myself wishing Trey Anastasio showed up.
Oh, but so he doesn't show up.
No. They literally just Stephen Colbert talking about how amazing he is.
I gotta watch that scene. Look, I don't speak for all fans. Phish fandom is not a monolith. Blah blah blah. All that. Caveat. That said, my sense from certainly my own experience and like my friends that I talk to about this stuff who are in the scene, we love it. Like when good. Phish comes up in pop culture, you know, they're it's very. I forget which team. There is a football or a baseball team where it's like part of their, like they play Wilson. I think it's Wilson. At games, and it's just like, that's awesome. That's really cool. The band has been on The Simpsons, and obviously that was super fun.
That's nuts. Once upon a time, there's like an interview where Kurt Cobain says, "We knew we made it when Weird Al parodied us." I feel like the true sign of that is like you are on The Simpsons. That's when you like when you get on The Simpsons, that's made it on like a whole other level of existence. Because like to be immortalized in that is nuts. So that's cool. That's very cool.
Trey's actually been on it twice, I think. At least 2 times. I didn't even realize this. I randomly found myself watching a new Simpsons episode like a week or 2 ago, and I wasn't even listening to it, but I happened to glance at the screen, and Homer was driving and hitting a series of signs, and then all of a sudden, to your point about the Simpsons making something iconic, I saw Simpsons Trey get hit by the car and like fly past the windshield. And I was so surreal and puzzling that I had to stop what I was doing and like rewind it to see what the gag was and how Phish factored in. And once I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, that's actually very funny.
Modern day Simpsons is pretty good, everybody. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, it's still hit and miss. It was always a little hit and miss. Like, we just remember the original stuff the old stuff very, very fondly because it was a very special time in our lives. But like, Simpsons is still good. It's still good.
I got to give it another chance,
man.
I've fallen.
Who's your favorite? Who's your favorite member of Phish that's not named Trey or Ernest Joseph Anastasio?
I mean, Trey. It's tough. There are no favorites here. I will say, like, my appreciation for Trey's skills and talent specifically is something that came a little later. I didn't ever disliked him, but like I was always more into like Mike Gordon's bass, and I played keyboard, not well, but I played keyboard, so I love Paige McConnell. Like I think he's a really talented performer and singer, and but yeah, I mean they're all great when they play together. Like that is their secret sauce. When you have Trey, Mike, Page, and Phish, Fish, Fishman, all on a stage together playing music, it is just the best thing. Like that, take any one of them out of the equation and it totally changes the dynamic. But like all four of them together is the best band member.
Awesome. Two more for you. Do people who like Phish like Dave Matthews Band?
So
am I asking the most basic bitch questions? Because like
no,
honestly,
not at all.
These are the things I wonder about, because I feel like Dave Matthews. Look, I'll be honest with you. I've had to have this conversation many times. I don't like Dave Matthews Band. I don't think they're good. I do think they are all wildly talented musicians. I just don't personally enjoy the music they make when they put their talents together. And that's fine. I understand they have fans, but I know they're obviously not the same thing as Phish, but they do have very jam band vibes to them. So I'm very curious, like, does your love of this type of music extend there? Is that something normal for the fandom, etc.?
Man, there's a lot to answer here. Dave Matthews first. So I mentioned Grateful Dead to Phish. There was like some stuff in between. That was Dave Matthews. Like I got into Dave Matthews Band in the like early mid 90s through live concerts, and mostly through their drummer. Their drummer is one of the most talented drummers I've ever heard.
100%.
Carter Beauford is like unbelievably talented.
That's the thing that blows me away about that band, is like we only know them as like the mainstream public, the general public only knows them as Dave Matthews Band, but I'm like, they're all so talented, we should just know each of their names. They're that good. They are so good, it's bewildering to me. There's a lot of skill in that band. And then Dave Matthews' voice tends to like turn a lot of people off, which I get.
I totally get it. But like and the thing that I like about Dave Matthews Band that sort of led me to Phish as well, because Phish does this very well, is I can't speak to like modern Dave Matthews lineup, it's because I know it's very different now. But that period in the 90s where they were like more in that jam band scene and very much coming up. They had a real skill for sort of building up to crescendos and then releasing. And that is probably Phish's like most powerful secret weapon, is their ability to sort of like build their whatever jam they're working at into like this really like tension and release kind of situation where it's like go like the beat drops kind of thing. Obviously it's not that, but that's what Phish does. And that is what drew me to Dave. In addition, like Carter got me there, but what kept me with Dave Matthews music is not so much his singing. He's whatever, I don't care. His voice doesn't bother me, but like the music is what got me. Their ability to sort of tell a story with music that had like a beginning, a middle, a build up, a climax, a denouement, like that was just such a powerful thing. And that's what, that's not something I ever got from the Grateful Dead. They did a very different kind of thing with their jams. They went much further into outer space. With Dave Matthews, they would always like they would go wild and like go kind of supernova, but they would always bring you back down to earth by like building to this point and then blowing it up and then just kind of like settling the song out. And Phish does it better. I mean, like that's just like every amazing song they do has some element of that going on, that tension and release, that build up and let go.
Okay, right on. So,
but
there is some there is some crossover.
And definitely. I mean, that's how I found Phish.
That's how you found it.
How I found Phish, but that's what led me to Phish. Right. Because obviously like a deadhead in the 90s who was like a teen, I knew of Phish, but I just never like gave them the time of day until my musical taste started to expand a little bit more. But that's, I would say, not specific or unique to Dave Matthews. I think that's a jam band thing, like a jam band scene thing, because this is something that is specific to me. I got really into Phish in my later high school years. I dropped out of college after my first year and did like work closer to home and did a lot of like touring and seeing live music, and all of that actually like fired up an interest for me professionally and led me to working in that scene, specifically the jam band scene. And
Really?
these were the years where I was kind of drifted away from Phish too. It was very much a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was seeing music every night that wasn't Phish because it was my job. But one thing I always noticed with all these different bands that I worked with or saw is Phish fandom would be, or not even just Phish, but jam band fandom would be like the common bond at all these shows. You definitely have your like, I mean, I didn't like the Disco Biscuits. You definitely have your Soul Live fans or your Robert Randolph fans, but at all those shows, you would also have this large group of people who just love that scene and love the music that emanates from that scene.
Sorry, I'll cut this out. I just took a big drag off of my vape pen.
No, that's cool. I'm saving mine for after because I want to be coherent for this.
Oh, I appreciate it. And then my last question, my most controversial question: where do you stand on Phish food?
Oh, the ice cream?
Yeah,
don't like it.
Really? Have you? You've tried it?
Oh yeah, I've tried it. Get your fucking marshmallows out of my ice cream. I don't want marshmallow flavor in my ice cream.
Bro, have you not had like Rocky Road? There's marshmallows.
Not a fan of Rocky Road either.
What? Oh my god.
Yeah. I'm a more of an ice cream purist. Like I like simple
what's your all right, so like chocolate, vanilla, strawberry? Like what is your go-to? Like what is your flavor?
I'm gonna plug a business right now.
Oh, by all means.
So I live in like Hudson Valley, New York. Okay. Pretty close to like Danbury, Connecticut, in that area. And there's a place in Bethel, which is right next to Danbury, called Dr. Mike's Ice Cream. And it's like rated in road food. Like it's very well known. It's famous. Okay. It is, Chris, it is the best ice cream I have ever tasted, and nothing even comes close. Like it's just
really
like outrageous. And yeah, I do really simple flavors. I do their chocolate is called rich chocolate. And I once read a review of the place that compared it to a melted Hershey bar that was then frozen, and that is the flavor. It's just like this rich, creamy chocolate flavor. They do an Oreo ice cream that tastes like you're really eating an Oreo. Yeah, dude.
I'll say that when I just went to a place here for the first time called the Revolution Ice Cream or something along those lines, and had their cinnamon roll ice cream. And let me tell you, my friend, oh, heaven, just heaven.
Good ice cream, man.
Very good ice cream.
When we get you out to Phish, I hope it's at a garden show. Come stay up here with us, and I'll take you to Dr. Mike's.
Hell yeah. Ice cream. Look, I don't want to jinx it. My goal, I mean, Phish won't be happening during New York Comic Con, but my goal is to get out there for New York Comic Con and do some hanging. We're gonna be Broadway bros. We're gonna go see Sweeney Todd.
Dude. Yes. Yeah. And more if you want.
Oh, sure.
We'll I still want to see Moulin Rouge.
I would love to see Moulin Rouge. Have I told you my okay. I was in New York for New York Comic Con one year, and it was while Gotham was on, the television show Gotham, and I arranged to, and I loved the show, and I covered the show, so I was like, hey, I'm going to be in New York, can I come to set? And they're like, yeah, do it. And I got there, and they invited a couple other press, and we were hanging out, and the one person I wanted to speak with most is the kid who played Penguin, Robin Lord Taylor. Great dude. Yes. Such a wonderful guy. But he wasn't working that day. So I find out later, I get an email from the publicist who's like, hey, Robin still wants to talk to you. Like, can you come to where can you make something work like in outside of time? And what that turned into was a quick coffee by wherever he was living in New York. And the quick coffee turned into like a 3-hour recorded interview chat that was great. But at the end, he was like, so what else are you doing while you're here? I was like, well, I'm going to see a Broadway show. I don't know which one. And he's like, well, what do you think? And I was like, I kind of want to see Hedwig because Taye Diggs was playing Hedwig at the time. And that's a recipe for greatness. He's like, I saw it and it's fantastic. And he's so good in it. There's this new musical that just opened and we saw it a couple weeks ago and some friends saw it, and like it'll cost a bit more, but it's really, really cool. And I was like, what is it? He's like, it's this rap musical about Alexander Hamilton.
Yep, of course.
And I was like, yeah, but I'm gonna go see Hedwig. So I was advised to go see Hamilton before the world found out what Hamilton was, and guess what? Didn't go see it, but I had an amazing time at Hedwig. So that's cool.
Hey, that matters.
And I never saw Hamilton. So that's
cool.
Shit.
All right, we got to
I saw Hamilton, the Disney Plus movie version. That's about it.
I mean, it's great. That's great. The movie version is great. It's got the original cast. You can't go wrong.
But no, I have not, as they say, been in the room where it happens.
Yeah, we're gonna. You tell me the moment you're booked for New York, and we're gonna make it happen.
Hell yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
I will certainly let you know. That was my question. I was like, so what about New York Comic Con? Because that's in like a couple of months, and the result was, let's get through San Diego first. I was like, that works for me. Adam, thank you so much. Is there anything you want to plug? Do you want people to find you on social media? If you don't, that's sure. Okay.
Sure, I don't care.
All right.
I don't really
Where
use
can they
it so
find
much
you
anymore. I am Gemini Bros on Twitter, I guess. I don't really use Twitter anymore, but I'm on Gemini Bros on Blue Sky as well.
Ooh, yeah, Blue Sky's tight.
And
are you on Threads?
No, Zook has enough of my data.
Yeah. You act as if doesn't already have the data they're going to ask you about.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I don't need to give them another vector of information.
That's fair.
I'm trying to like trim down the social media in my life, and I actually do. We'll see if Blue Sky sticks around for me, but it's nice to be on a Twitter again.
It's nice. It's nice to have places that are like Twitter visually, but not like Twitter, like in the soul.
Yes.
So far.
Yeah. No.
Until Elon buys all of them too.
God, yeah. Here's hoping he doesn't. Are you on Blue Sky yet?
I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on I'm on Blue Sky and Threads, and I don't really look at either of them. And also, but what it's done is the amount of time I look at Twitter has fallen into a pit in the ground. I just don't care. I look at Instagram and TikTok for the most part. So you guys follow me on TikTok at Chris Hayner. Get some of that hot content. It's wonderful. Well, thank you for doing this, man. I'm very glad you taught me things. This is exciting.
It's a good conversation when you walk away knowing something new. But
absolutely.
Chris, thank you so much for inviting me to do this, having me come here and spend an hour plus talking about my favorite band.
We're in our, you say having you come here as if we're not just both in our offices at our individual homes in different states.
Totally.
But I thank you for giving me your time, because holy cow, this was fun. And now I'm even more I need to go to one now. I have to.
So how do we make this happen? How do I help you help yourself?
I just got to look at when their shows are. Do they announce their shows pretty well ahead of time? I'm guessing if you've already gotten Phish Fall. Let's see, they're playing Nashville, Dayton, and Chicago.
Yeah, that's a short fall tour they're doing. They don't have too many fixed properties in their calendar.
Yeah.
New Year's is almost always on every year, unless there's a horrible global pandemic.
What was that? Yeah, what was that like?
Oh man, there were
Like,
well,
did they do like streaming shows or anything?
they actually did. I don't think it wasn't the first. It wasn't 20. Was it 2020? They did a New Year's show that was like at the Beacon Theater with no one there, and they streamed it. And
that's cool.
We actually watched it down here. I used to have a different setup, so the TV that's like behind my laptop used to be right here, and we just like turned on the stream and just danced the night away. But
I love
it. It was funny. Another Phish anecdote. New Year's 2019 into 2020, their third set sort of spectacle had all of them on individual suspended platforms that were like 50 feet above the stage playing.
Whoa.
And they got to, I don't know if they got to the end of it or they got to a midpoint of it, because the platforms were like sort of moving up and down, but Trey's wasn't. And it turned out what was happening was the pulley system on his platform specifically was broken. And they eventually ended up like cutting the set short and like getting the rest of the band down, because it was a serious safety issue, obviously.
Yeah.
If he had fallen, he could have very easily died. And that's bad for all sorts of reasons. But so yeah, they brought the whole band down, but obviously Trey is stuck up there with his guitar and a mic in front of like however 20,000 Phish fans in Madison Square Garden. So of course, like, he made the most of it and like noodled around and kept playing and bantered with the audience. It was like extended. It wasn't story time, but it was like that kind of vibe of story time.
Dude, that's
but
so
it was still
fun. That's a memorable moment.
It was fun, but it was also a shit show. Like, it was total disaster. Nothing went as planned. The night went really late, and like the show didn't end in a satisfying way. And then 2020 happened like the next day, and we knew this illness was out there, and then 3 months later here it was, and the world shut down for 3 years.
Oh my god, that, like, how apropos,
right? It's like it was the prelude. It was Phish knew before anyone that 2020 was going to be a bad one.
Wow, that is nuts.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, you keep me here long enough, I'll just keep rattling off random Phish episodes.
Well,
but
then
yeah, man.
Yeah,
you got to make this happen.
I love this, and it's going to happen. It's not even we have to. This will happen. This will happen. I'm going to become one of you. It's just I have to.
I think you'll enjoy it. Do you like dancing?
I do.
You'll have that.
I especially like concerts where it's acceptable to dance. I've been to a lot of concerts where I feel like if I start dancing right now, people are gonna look at me funny because nobody else is dancing. Everybody else is like rocking out, and I'm just like, I just want to like dance, man. I just want to feel the music.
Phish is you. No matter what moves you pull, you will not have the weirdest dance of the night.
Love it.
I guarantee it. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, if you like dancing, if you like groovy music, if you like big clouds of pot smoke over the audience, it is the best time.
Honestly, that's the best place to leave it there. So I'm going to stop you now and say thank you, Adam. This was the coolest. And like, yes, if you like big pot smoke cloud, let's all go see Phish together, everybody.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate the time and the opportunity to just effervesce about Phish for a little while.
Hell yeah. And